Hi, everybody. We are live from Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, where it's a rainy, kind of hazy, what do you call this, Julia? Overcast morning. It's not so bad. It's kind of nice. We've got a great guy standing by in Port Stevenson in Australia, north of Sydney. Port Stevens, is it? And he will be with us in a moment. That, of course, is Andrew Dolly Divola, who is commentating for this week's. Yeah, you should go ahead and wave your hand there and thumbs up. Andrew is in Port Stevens, as I mentioned, near Newcastle, north of a couple, 3 hours north of Sydney, and he will be commentating for this weekend's J.J. Giltinan. There, I finally said it correctly. Julia, I trust you're well?
I am, interestingly enough.
Why is that interesting?
Because there could be so many things wrong, and I refuse to recognize any of them.
Oh, come on. There's never anything wrong. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. We get rid of our lower thirds and carry on here. Alan Long is checking in still. He's in sunny Belize.
Oh, nice.
Clay Embley is watching the show while rebuilding winches and listening here. He's in the boat shop, and I don't know if he's in Kentucky or where. Donna Walker, howdy doody from North Texas. That's probably Bob Walker on Donna's YouTube channel. Greg Phillips from the Gold Coast of Australia. Fog Machine back on. We haven't seen him in a while, Julia.
No.
Here in San Francisco, Lance Burke, Steve Atkins. Yeah, let's go. Ed Worley, hello, fellow Fozy and beyond. Rick Banner, looking forward to a super Fozy kind of day with ADD. Good morning from Melbourne. Chris Furious saying a lot of Aussies on here today, including the past president of Australian Sailing, Alistair Murray, G'day from Metong. I never quite know how to pronounce it. And Mark Holland is saying, happy Mardi Gras. Is it Mardi Gras Tuesday?
Yes.
Is it? And Jody Shields at the top of our comments, it's off the comments page, saying, Dolly, Dolly, Dolly. I think he's a big fan of Dolly Divola standing by. We'll get to Dolly in a moment. Here's with our new format, putting the starting line, cover slide, and of course I knew it was Happy Shrove Tuesday, Fat Tuesday, and Mardi Gras. You see there on that's what we're celebrating today, Julia, right?
It's a great idea.
Andrew Dolly Divola is coming on live from Port Stevens in Newcastle. I think it's one word, not two. I have to check with Dolly on that in a moment. He's going to be previewing the 2025 J.J. Giltinan. It's the Intergalactic Championship for the 18-foot skiffs. It's on Sydney Harbor, of course. We have news briefs, our new segment covering the Opti range in Valencia. Opti Orange, it should be, because, of course, oranges. The Valencia Oranges. Big deal there in Valencia. Vendée Globe Day 114, and the Bacardi Cup is underway in Miami.
Oh, yes.
Coaching Corner, we have Jon Emmett checking in from the esteemed Middle Harbor Yacht Club, just a bit south of where Dolly Divola is, but down in Sydney, before he gets on the plane to Melbourne, back to Melbourne. And the last leg, the Switch. See that capital S? The Switch is on at the Royal Varuna Yacht Club. We have a nice little video from there and a piece of news as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and thank you to our super Fozy, Andrew McIrvin, for being our guest. Wasn't he a surprise, as always?
Oh, yes. I just love everything that comes out of his mouth, and I'm always surprised. He knows everything.
Well, he is. That's why we have him on the show. We only have smart people on the show, right?
Right.
Fat Tuesday. Me tongue. Chris Fury says that holiday house, the town where Alistair is Me Tongue.
Me tongue.
Me Tongue. Okay, we'll say Me Tongue. And Jon Emmett says he had sugar and lemon pancakes for breakfast in honor of Fat Tuesday.
Great idea.
And hi, Phil Burgess. He's at the Royal Prince Alfred Club in Pittwater. Julia, your favorite club in the world.
It is.
Is it not?
Well, not quite the world, but one of them.
What's your?
It's my favorite club in Australia.
Oh, in Australia. Okay. Well, thanks again to Andrew. He was a fabulous guest as always. Filled us in on what's going on in the offshore world in general, but what's coming up with this summer's 2025, the revival of the very esteemed. Do you need to say very? I think it's either esteemed or not. It's the esteemed Admiral's Cup. You don't need to add other adjectives.
Don't need to.
Well, I'm not going to then if you say not to.
Pancake
Day.
I didn't say not to.
Pancake Day, Julia. So that's what's going on. And of course, that we told you about Carnival on Friday's show. Carnival of Brazil started on Friday and runs through this coming Saturday, the 8th. Samba music, vibrant costumes, and all. And of course, what are we celebrating today, Julia?
Besides
Mardi Gras. I just you had to put it in there. Mardi Gras. Let the good times roll with Mardi Gras in New Orleans. NOLA, as they call themselves now, NOLA, New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah.
This carnival season is a time for revelry, music, and colorful celebrations. So don your beads, masks, and feathers and join in the fun of this festive occasion. Mardi Gras is French for Fat Tuesday, so it's no wonder the festivity takes place on a Tuesday, but not just any Tuesday. In France, celebrations, which can range from one day up to a week, depending upon the local customs, took place the day before Ash Wednesday, which of course is tomorrow here in the States, which in turn inaugurates the Lenten season.
Which is why you get fat on Tuesday.
Yes, because you're supposed to stop eating, right? It's also Ramadan this week, this month.
Yes.
So some great pictures from New Orleans. Back then, the idea of this day was to consume all the food containing fats before starting on the 40 days of Lent, during which religious devotees usually fasted, mainly refraining from eating meat, as well as following other practices in preparation for Easter. And while the notion of Fat Tuesday still remains in the present day, it is now more commonly referred to as
Shrove.
Why Shrove? What does Shrove mean?
I don't know.
I don't either. Somebody in the chat will know why it's called Shrove Tuesday. Although most countries with a Christian background tend to celebrate Mardi Gras, some stand out with their full-blown celebrations, as several of you mentioned in the chat on Friday. In New Orleans, for example, the festival begins on the 12th night, way back in January 6th. It lasts for up to 3 months. And, of course, the city does come alive. In Brazil, the Carnival we talked about on Friday, considered the largest in the world, begins the Friday before Ash Wednesday. Began last Friday when we featured it, and has at its heart one of the most impressive and grand parades with colorful samba schools, the local dancing troupe dancing their over-the-top feathery costumes. The end of the celebration. Notice I covered that costume up. I didn't want to get a finger wag, Julia.
You might not.
At the end of the celebrations, one of the samba, they're not somber at all, schools is declared the winner of that year's Carnival. And then there's the Venice Carnival, several of you pointed out, Carnivale, which is also one of the most famous and oldest in the world, known for its long-held tradition of wearing gold-rimmed, multicolored masks and elaborate costumes. The carnival takes place in the 2 weeks leading up to Fat Tuesday, so that's been going on, wraps up today in Venice and Venezia, and everyone can join in the parades or processions that flood the streets, a good choice of words, during this time, the mask being optional, but a fun addition. Now, Julia, do you know what's going on in NOLA, New Orleans, as we speak?
But besides the beginning of the parade?
In addition to the parades, which are now over.
Well, except...
Look at this slide. The answers are always on the slides. Julia.
Yes.
They've got heavy weather. In fact, Andrew's going to tell us about some heavy weather headed their way in Australia.
Right.
And they've got heavy weather down there, that some of the worst in memory, and super rain and very windy, upwards to 40, 50 knots of wind. So NOLA has already issued, this was this morning early, issued a high warning in effect till 9 o'clock tonight. So they banned tents, umbrellas, and chairs along parade routes. I heard that they began the parades early. And they did at 6:30 instead of 7 this morning. A couple different parades. So yeah, celebrate safely and stay weather aware, which they have done. These are pictures from last night or early this morning. Mardi Gras festivities are indeed underway early Tuesday morning, despite a forecast of severe weather expected later in the day. The city's iconic Fat Tuesday parades are adapting to the impending storms with the Zulu and Rex crews, shortening their routes and starting earlier than usual, 6:30 a.m. So they banned floats and marching. Yeah, I think the floats and marching bands still went on. You know, you can't have a parade without floats and marching bands, can you, Julia? But they're supposed to be off the street by 11:30.
Yeah. I believe that.
By the way, just so you get the facts here on Sailing Illustrated, the average high this time of year is 70 degrees. It's usually beautiful this time of year. The wettest day was in 1927. They had more than 2 inches of rain. The hottest day was not too long ago, no surprise, 83 degrees. And the coldest daytime high in 2021 was 22 Fahrenheit, Julia.
Wow.
You wouldn't want to be parading around, I don't suspect, in those conditions. But they did this morning, early this morning. The parades got off. Apparently it was great fun, and you had the King Zulu, and you had Queen Zulu. That's his wife, by the way. Celebrity, and then this celebrity, he is a local who's been involved since forever. I tried to see if he was a member of the Southern Yacht Club, but he is. Howell Crosby is the king of Carnival 2025, the Rex King. And I can't know for sure if he's a member. I did try to find out, but to no avail. But he's apparently a pillar of the community, a lawyer, and so on. And speaking of yacht clubs, this is the fantastic Southern Yacht Club on Lake Pontchartrain there in NOLA. Founded in 1849, it's one of the oldest clubs in this country, to wit.
Also,
hang on, Julia. Hang on.
New Orleans was the 4th largest city in the United States, a thriving port, a capital of banking, and a center of culture. However, during the summer months, many New Orleanians would retreat to the Gulf Coast to flee the city's heat, humidity, and yellow fever outbreaks. A favorite destination was the Pass Christian Hotel, and it was there on July 21st, 1849, that a group of New Orleans sailors established the Southern Yacht Club. 2 weeks later, on August the 6th, 18 yachts answered the starting gun for the club's inaugural regatta, won by the sloop Undine. The winning Gold Cup is still on display in our trophy case to this day. It and a second trophy awarded 2 weeks later are both older than the America's Cup, considered the oldest trophy in sports. The 17 years of Civil War and Reconstruction greatly curtailed boating activities until 1878, when the club was reorganized and its first post-war regatta held. The following year, a handsome clubhouse was built over the water on the shoreline of Lake Pontchartrain beside a burgeoning recreational destination known as West End. The clubhouse became the scene of many elaborate social events as well as numerous regattas. In 1899, a new and larger
Julie, I think you get the idea. What a fantastic club this is. And as I said, one of the oldest in the country. New York Yacht Club was organized a couple, 3 years before Southern Yacht Club. Detroit Boat Club was also organized about the same time. But this club goes way back and is just a fantastic
it was and
club.
Majorly rehabilitated during
several hurricanes, including Katrina, the latest one. The club got blown away, and they've had it burned and so on and so forth with the fires. But what a great club! What a great city, and great music, Dixieland jazz. Julie, when I want you to play at my funeral, I want you to play "Oh, When the Saints Go Marching In."
Yes.
Oh, when the saints go marching in. Let's see if we can get Dolly to clap his hands. How I want to be in that. There he goes. A number. Fantastic club in New Orleans, in L.A., in NOLA, New Orleans, Louisiana. There's Flying Scots, the class of boat that I sailed back in the day as a youth. The Gulf, what used to be the club boat for the Gulf Yachting Association. As John Schaefer checks in from Annapolis, and now they have the Viper something, 600, Viper 4 something, as the club boat across the Gulf Yachting Association. So enough about that. The esteemed Southern Yacht Club. We are also very pleased to have, and we always celebrate, the FOSI, who help us keep this channel alive and thriving. Those of you especially who join via Patreon.com, become patrons, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. We appreciate very much your support. Upcoming shows next week, the Viper 6-4. There's Tom Pace, who's the past Commodore of Pensacola Yacht Club, Gulf Yachting Association Club. Pence confirming, as Alan Long did, that it's the Viper 640. Stingray agrees he likes the Preservation Hall Jazz Band. Awesome music, Baton Rouge, named after a the capital city in Louisiana, but his real name's Baton Kennon. He's in Charleston, South Carolina. See all those paintings with smokestacks and steam engines? Those were to represent the future and prosperity of a city embracing the Industrial Revolution. Yeah, that was about the last thing we saw on that video, just before I cut away from it. Speaking of cool people, next week, not this Friday, but next Tuesday, as I mentioned, I think a week ago, or last Friday's show, Tuesday, March 11th, Fosey Mark Reed from Michigan.
Wow.
Will be our live guest. He will be talking about the Heart of America Challenge, Chicago Yacht Club's 1987 challenge, and that it was the Buddy Malgus and that whole team, and they're having a reunion of the crew and a club night at Chicago Yacht Club coming up on the 21st of March. Any of you in the Great Lakes area may want to try to check in with that. I'm not sure they have room for non-members, but they may. And another Fosey is organizing that whole series of events leading up to the club's 150th, Betsy Altman Barrett.
Oh, good for
who's
her.
a super Fosey.
Yes.
And has supported this channel from the get-go.
From the very beginning.
Very beginning. So we appreciate her and what they're doing and what Mark Reed is doing. He'll be our guest next Tuesday. And then, Julia.
Sir?
Next Friday, do you recognize this gentleman?
Indeed.
Who is that? Who is?
Kimball.
That's right. That next Friday, the 14th of March, our guest will be yachtsman and author, and Fosey's been on the show before.
Yeah.
Past Commodore of St. Francis Yacht Club, what we call staff Commodores, S/C. Kimball Livingston will be our guest a week from this Friday on talking about a very interesting topic here in the States, the rise of private youth sailing teams, not just club youth sailing teams, but private teams that are being organized. He's written an article in January. It appeared in our Sailing World magazine here in this country. Very interesting article. Kimball will be our guest with a panel of young super coaches.
Good.
So it should be quite an interesting show. KL is a hell of a writer, Bannero is saying. And that, Ed Worley's, he's talked back on the previous topic. He said that reunion would be fun to attend and hear the stories and history of the Heart of America and Buddy Malgus's role in that campaign, Chicago Yacht Club's campaign in 1987. But Kimball's also going to be a lot of fun a week from this Friday with his panel of young sailors, youth coaches, and the topic of the rise of private sailing teams. We'll cover that. Yeah, and we get criticism, Julia, for covering various topics. I've gotten criticism for covering as extensively as we did foiling. Mm-hmm. But, we're ecumenical. We'll cover all topics. We'll even make the odd side political comment. And if that upsets any of you, you don't have to watch. Right. But we make comments left, right, and center, and we make fun of everybody, including and especially
ourselves.
And we didn't even rehearse that. That was real.
But that's patently true.
But we don't make fun of Dolly Divola, who's standing by in Port Stevens, and we'll get to him in just a sec. One more video. If you're wondering why I'm back on a dynamic microphone in my face and Julia's back on her headset, it's because outdoors here in front of the Beach Street Yacht Club on Beach Street is this madness going on. The city, did you call them up, Julia?
No.
Somebody brought the city and they're they're pruning the trees out front here on Beach Street of the Beach Street Yacht Club. And I was worried that sound, although I think they're done now, that sound would carry over. Look at the guy just trimmed just a little what's he doing? It's not like he took okay, there's some branches, but it's like he's trimming the buds off it, Julia.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know what he was doing, but I wanted you to see that because you weren't 100% sure what all that noise was.
No. And I'm delighted to see the city doing that because before we had to do it.
Well, your political party, Julia, is the same as Steve Atkins, right? Left, right, and center?
Yes.
That's what's going on in front of the Beach Street Yacht Club, and that's why we're back on our kind of up close and personal mics. We hope the audio is okay. I did test it, as some of you saw over the weekend. Government workers, Ed Worley is saying. Let's don't get political, Ed. I'll get criticism here. Public Works, working 1 inch at a time.
They're being very careful to keep the priceless trees and healthy.
Well, that's a good tree out front. You and your late husband planted that, right?
That's correct.
What year?
70s? No. I can't. Maybe 86.
Oh, so that recently. Okay, let's get to our feature right away. We're going to jump right here in the B block to our feature, and we have talked about Andrew Dolly Divola, who is with us live. Bring him in right now. Andrew, better known across Australia, we'll call you Dolly if that's okay. Hello, Dolly. Well, hello, Dolly. Welcome to the show.
The only name I do answer to, Tom, about the only person who called me Andrew was my wonderful late mother.
Yeah. Occasionally my mother called me Thomas, I think.
I need to know how Dolly came in.
I got it when I'm now in my 61st year, Julia, and I got it when I was a very, very young kid, and it stuck. And one of those things, you get introduced to the next person and the next person, the next person, and yeah, certainly some people in the sailing world, if you said Andrew Divola, they'd say, who was that Dolly's brother?
Yes. But I love Dolly and as a name.
I love the music.
It's a name people remember.
Absolutely. It's great.
Tell us about the background, because you are on in a beautiful part of the world, let alone Australia, but a beautiful part of the world. And I pinged Jody last night, and I said, just before I went to bed, I said, hey, Jody, we're going to have Dolly. Mm-hmm. We're going to have Andrew Divola on the show. And he said he is a cool dude. He didn't use the word dude. He's really a cool guy. He's got a boat building facility. He knows more about more stuff in our sport than just about anybody. Mm-hmm. Great to have him on. So you've got one big fan.
Yes.
At least.
Well, Jody's situated about halfway between where I am now and where I live in Manly. So Jody's probably about an hour and a half south of where I am. I'm in a place called Mungo Brush, which is in the Mile Lakes National Park, an expanse of lakes which extends about 100 kilometres up the coast between Port Stephens and Foster. All national park area, beautiful 4 separate lakes. Magnificent place to sail and, just general recreation. And Tom, you can go sailing here for 4 days and not see another soul. It's a pretty special place. And if you hear a few strange noises in the background, it could be just about anything from any sort of Australian wildlife we have here, from kangaroos and dingoes and lots of huge goanna lizards and as you all like to say, kookaburras.
What do you say?
Kookaburras.
How do you pronounce it?
It's like you're making your dinner, Tom. It's a kookaburra.
A kookaburra?
Oh.
Kookaburra.
Julia, did you know that?
I've been mispronouncing it. Kookaburra.
All Americans say kookaburra.
Yeah. We do, indeed.
But it's actually a kookaburra.
Kookaburra. I will always remember that.
Now, I'm going to cut to this map that I've pulled off of Google Maps that's got, as you can see, I'll go over to, I won't go to camera 4, but you can see from Newcastle on down, you're actually in that big lake area where it says, what, A43? Is that the big lake area?
Yeah, and I'm on the narrow strip of land which is between the lakes and the ocean front. So the beautiful thing is here, you can take your 4-wheel drive down onto the beach. The strip of land varies from probably 1 kilometre wide down to only a couple of 100 metres wide. And the beauty is you've got the surf on one side and the lakes on the other, and you can surf and sail and fish or just camp, do whatever you like. It's a wonderful part of the coast, and you're only 3 hours from my front door. And it's sort of my happy place, Tom and Julia. When I need a bit of a break, I come up here, and it's just a wonderful place to recharge.
Did you mind showing us? And I don't want to mess up the connection. Your camera, I know, is on a tripod.
I can a little. That's all right. I'll just pick you up.
Yeah, there you go. What a beautiful sight. And it's what time? It's 08:25 in the morning there Wednesday. Is that right?
Yeah, that's about right. I'll just straighten up my shot for you.
Yeah.
There you go.
We did a tech check yesterday. Show us the nice scenery if you can to the left and right. You're just in a nice wooded area right there along the lake. Beautiful setting.
Yeah, so they're Melaleuca trees, which are otherwise known as the paper bark tree. The native Aboriginals used to use the bark off those trees for all sorts of uses, from basically plates to cooking in to all sorts of things. And the trees around the lake here leach their tannins into the water. So the water is it's fairly fresh. The lake I'm in, it's a little bit brackish, but it has like a tea stain in it, which is supposedly very good for your hair, but I don't have any. So
you just
only on my face.
Before we get into the JJ, you had quite a good go in the windsurfer. What was it? The Nationals? What did you just?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah, I just had a pretty good national title. So I got 4th in the course racing, 3rd in the slalom, 3rd overall. And a couple of months, when was it? November, October, I was over in Europe and did the World Championships in Costa Brava, Spain, and I finished 15th over there. I was 10th the year before. In Perth, but yeah, 15th over there, and spent a bit of time over in Europe, including being in Barcelona for the end of the Louis Vuitton and then the Cup, which I'm very big on. I haven't been that well the last 5 years, and I'm very big on ticking off things I want to do in life.
Absolutely.
And 2 of those things for that trip were travelling for 2 weeks through Morocco, which I'd always wanted to go to Morocco, and being in Barcelona for the Cup, which some people love the Cup and some people hated the Cup in Barcelona and the boats and all that sort of stuff. I thought it was just absolutely sensational. We had an absolute blast there. The sailing was great, and the facility was amazing. I thought the Cup this year was absolutely sensational.
Stingray is asking if the snout, he thought he spotted a snout floating out behind you. Was that a croc or a gator or a piece of tree?
Fortunately, the crocs are moving further south, but we've got a bit of but warmer water moving down the coast. But there's not a croc within about 1,000 kilometres from here, fortunately.
Okay, well, stay safe. Let's go to talk to get the preview here of this upcoming Super Regatta this weekend and all of next week. The JJ Giltinan, I think I finally pronounced that right, and it's Kookaburra, Julia. Say it. Kookaburra.
That's much better, guys.
Kookaburra.
See, I've achieved something today.
Kookaburra.
Thank you.
And all those months, even years that we lived in Australia, leading up to the '87 Cup, we always call it Kooka.
Yeah.
Kookaburra.
The first time I was there, we had several in the backyard of the house we were in, and it was fun getting to know them.
But is it Kooka? Barra or Burra, or what's the second syllable?
Kookaburra.
Barra.
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 Yeah, Kookaburra.
Kookaburra.
Yeah, you're getting pretty good there, Tom.
Kookaburra, not Kookaburra. Alistair Murray is putting it in a little bit, not quite phonetic. Kookaburra. He's saying burra, but barra, you're saying barra like it's an egg.
Yeah.
Kookaburra.
Yeah. Barra.
Well, you learn something new on Sailing Illustrated, Julia.
I'm so glad.
Every day.
Yeah.
Well, apparently us Aussies speak a bit strange, but I don't get it.
I love it. I also think it's very
Mm-hmm.
catchable. You spend a week or two in Australia and then you come come back with that accent. And you're going, oops.
Emmett, who's sitting at the John is at the Sydney airport. He's saying pronunciation illustrated. Okay. J. Frederick Bland's looked it up on Google, and he says kook, K-O-O-K, abraa, kook abraa. Okay, enough of that. We're never going to get it
We'll
right.
never get there.
Let's Andrew, let's have you take us through this stuff that's going on. The first race of the 2025. This is the 90th year, right? Is it? Do I have that right?
Yeah. I think I sort of did my numbers and I couldn't work out whether it's the 79th or the 80th. But it's thereabouts. We started in 38, and then there was one in 39, and obviously there was a few missing years due to World War II. And it started back up again in 39, and it's been constant since. It's been constant since 48, I think.
So the 90th year is really how long the association and the boats have been around, and not necessarily the JJ, I guess.
Yeah, it's not as long as the boats have actually been around longer, but it's the 90th year of what was the 18-footer league is now known as the Australian 18-footers. But there was a breakaway, Tom. So the 18-footers have been around a lot, well over 100 years. The boats were being sailed with 12 hands at the time, 12 crew. And there was a change made where they built some newer boats that were wider, and they reduced the crew to 7. And the Sydney Flying Squadron didn't want the class to go in that direction. And a new group was formed called the 18-footer League, and that's when the club was started over in Double Bay. And it's the league because they went into an agreement with the Brisbane 18-footers club, and they formed what you could consider sort of a breakaway group. And the 90 years is to that period of time.
Got it. I'm glad you cleared that up, because as Steve Groover is saying, the problem is not how the Aussies speak, but how the Seppos listen. Julie, you know what a Seppo is?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
You know how we got that nickname?
I've forgotten.
Yank is short for septic tank. That's the rhyming Cockney rhyme, right?
Right.
How would you say it? Septic tank rhymes with yank.
Yeah, Seppos.
Yeah.
How are we supposed? Now Stingray wants to know how are we supposed to pronounce Ideen? 18.
18.
Not Ideen?
18.
18.
You're no
say
fun.
The 8. Say the 8 first, and then the teen.
8.
We always were told it was Ideen.
Well, Aussies tend to put a bit of a ring onto everything, and we sort of say 18s.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
18s.
The schedule is for this first race on your Saturday, our Friday, and it's live on YouTube. And you can see there that that little black stripe. You can click on that, which I will do live in 3 days, March 7th at 7:20 p.m. That's our time here in San Francisco, and I'll click on that notify bell to watch the racing on our Friday, starting Saturday. But you have a preliminary race, and the regatta goes on all next week through the 16th of March, of course, and it's sponsored by Winnings. But then you've got another event here starting on Friday called the Invitation Race. What is that event?
Yeah, so do you guys not have invitation races at the start of championships over in the US?
We do, but I think we call them practice races.
Okay, yeah. So that's what it essentially is. So it gives the competitors who aren't from Sydney or wherever the regatta's being held to just acclimatise themselves with the area and the conditions. It gives the race committee a little bit of a practice run as well. And I'm sure in the US, where there's certainly here in Australia, there's always been a bit of a superstition that if you win the invitation race, you don't win the regatta. Yeah. So it's usually not a race people try and win. Often you'll see them get towards the back end of the race and they'll just turn tail and head back to the club. Or we've seen occasions where the lead boaters coming in and about to win the race and they hang a bit of a left turn past the pin end and don't actually finish the race, so or capsize before the finish. But yeah, that'll be on the Friday is the first race, and then we're racing heats 1 and 2 on Saturday, Sunday. Monday will be a lay day, reserve day. Probably a lay day though, looking at the conditions that we've got, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, both those days will be a 2-race day, 2 heats on those days. And then Thursday, again, 1 race, Friday, a lay day, and then we finish up on the following Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, well, you've got some weather incoming.
We do.
Notwithstanding the problems they're having in New Orleans today with Mardi Gras, but Greg Phillips is saying with Cyclone Alfred coming down the coast to New South Wales, there might not be any racing this weekend due to cross the coast tomorrow. So you were telling me about that yesterday during the tech check, that racing may be off this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we'll be sailing. The cyclone's crossing the coast, or predicted to cross the coast probably between Brisbane and Surfers Paradise, which is a long way north of Sydney, about 950 kilometres. So, but we'll certainly be feeling the effects of it. Where I am now, the surf at the beach is massive. So we're already getting swell, but obviously the swell is limited in Sydney Harbour. But no, it looks like it's going to be a fairly fruity regatta, as I like to say. We're definitely going to have some breeze. The first couple of days don't look too bad, but as we move into the week, I think we're going to have some what I would call epic conditions. Fantastic.
Epic
for racing. Back when I was racing 18-footers, those were the days that we really hoped for. The fresher, the bigger the rides, the promoters definitely wanted it because the bigger the crashes, right?
Right.
But yeah, it could be interesting, and if it is super windy, I think that's going to play into the hands of a few people. Definitely will give a few crews an advantage.
Well, let's talk about those crews, and then we've got that nice video that is a good wrap-up of your club championship season. But tell us, we know that our Fozy, that Harry Price on Rag and Famish and his team have been strong all year, and apparently last Sunday was your final 2025 club championship race in the 18s, and they had already won the series going into that race. And I read the Australian champion team of Harry Price, Max Paul, and Finn Rodowitz already had the Australian 18-footers League Club Championship won prior to Sunday's race. So much of the interest focused on the race being a final hit out for the local, interstate, and international teams before the Winnings 2025 JJ Giltinan 18-foot skiff championship starts next weekend on Sydney Harbour with that practice or invitation race, as you call it, on your Friday. A 15 to 18 knot southerly wasn't last weekend, wasn't going to make things easy for the fleet, and crew work and consistency was going to play a big part deciding the outcome. Yet once again, the talented Rag and Famish Hotel crew were superb in scoring yet another championship victory, recovering from a moderate start. The team sailed a brilliant first downwind leg to grab the lead and go on to defeat a gallant Vycobi, that's Kirk Mitchell, Andrew Stevenson, and Daniel Barnett, by fully a minute and change. So here's Vycobi, the other team that seems to be consistently at the top. What do you rate their How do you rate their chances?
Vicobia strong, and they're certainly they've built well towards the end of the season. Young once again, like Harry and the guys, they're a relatively young crew that have worked their way through, the development classes that led them. They're from that whole crew. They're originally from the Drummoyne Skiff Club, which is Pricey's home club. Interestingly, the Prices have always had a strong affiliation with Drummoyne. They're probably their Achilles is consistency, but like I say, towards this end of the season, we've seen some real rapid improvement from the Vicobia team.
Okay, I also see you have a sixth team. Now, sixth, Julia, the car rental company. Yep. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Right.
And I knew the Sixt family when we were living in Germany. They had
somebody's real name?
Yeah, Sixt is the name of the family, and it's a name of a big European rental car company that goes.
I knew that, but I didn't know it was a family.
And
name.
it's outside of Germany, obviously. And I note, Andrew, that you have a German team this year. Are they sponsored by Sixt, or is that a different team? Because I see Sixt is also an event sponsor.
No, the Sixt team are a local Aussie team, skippered by Jacob Marks. Once again, we've seen them improve as the season has gone on. They tend to sail a little bit better in the conditions that aren't too hard. So when we've seen sort of what I'll call lighter conditions, they've sailed really well. Being a newer team, 18-footers are very, very difficult boats to sail. And when I sailed them, I found every way to crash them, and that's the only way to get good in them. So the learning curve is very steep and can be very long. So there's quite a few newer crews who they haven't found every way to crash the boat yet. So that makes it a bit difficult, and as the conditions get tougher, we'll see things get tough for some of those crews. But Shipway and I always have a bit of a giggle that the Sixt team are often in sixth place. So if they want to win a JJ one year, they might want to try and find someone called First to sponsor them.
Now, tell us about Peter Shipway in a moment, but first, how about this team Balmain? They've been at the top or near the top all season long, as I understand it.
Yeah, once again, a young team. Some of those guys, Henry Larkins with Flynn Toomey. I coached those guys a bit in their youth days. They're now in their early 20s, and real improvement when it gets sort of medium and a bit shifty. They've been very strong. They're very good starters, with the exception of the week before last. They had a swim just before the start and just managed to make the start on port. They took everyone stern on port, and had an excellent race that weekend. I didn't call the race last weekend because I was on the harbour doing the Far East 28 national title. And that report that you showed that said that on the Sunday it was 15 to 18 knots, Tom, if that was 15 to 18 knots, I'd hate to sail in 30, I'll tell you, because...
So it was breezier than that.
It was breezy, yeah, and the 18-footers on their long spinnaker run, they were dissecting our course on starboard tack with spinnakers on. And, there was plenty on, I can assure you. Yeah.
Well, it looks like from
that Balmain team, they're a smoky for sure. So if I was to rate some smokies sort of outside what I'd call the strong 3 or 4, Balmain Vycobi definitely in the mix, definitely capable of a top 3, 4, 5 positions. If things go their way, they could go better. But there's the boat that you've got in that slide there next to Balmain, not the one that's capsized. I think that's the Yandu that's capsized, who's one of my top 3.
That's Yandu
but
capsized.
The boat in the background there behind Balmain, so that's the Black Knight. So that's one of the German teams. Heinrich von Bayen is the skipper, and he's the current. That's the boat there, German
yeah, the
flag,
German flag on it.
Love it.
So
Kaltenberger Rittenturnier. Do you know that? Is that a beer?
That boat in the European Championships held in Lake Garda, which would have been in about July last year. Some of the top Aussie crews went over there, including Finport and Yandu, and that boat won the European Championship. And the last few JJs, they've shown good form. And, yeah, they're not to be discounted, the German team, that's for sure.
One German team or more than that? More than
No,
one?
we've got 3 German teams,
Wow.
actually. So we've got we don't have an official name for them yet, but they're calling them Germany Team 2. They've got Sean Langman's Noakes boat, which has been in mothballs for a little while. They're a bit of an unknown, but I did see them sail when I did commentary last weekend. They got themselves in a bit of strife on a windy day. They have a young lady on the sheet in the middle, which is a pretty tough role for a girl to take on, being on main sheet on an 18-footer. Her name's Tammy Borkman, and she's a pretty slight young thing. So full credit to her, one of the 3 females who will have sailing in the JJ Giltinan this year. And the 3rd German boat is the Hoffelhaus.
Hoffelhaus.
Hoffelhaus, and it's skippered by Holger Hoffel. This is probably their 3rd JJ Giltinan championship that they've done. Once again, they'll be filling the placings, but not a threat to the podium, I wouldn't think.
Christian Price is in the comments in the chat is saying that generally they steer, that is women, as it's quite physical. 2 are skippered by women this season, in addition to the one that's apparently on the lady who's on the main.
Yeah, so I was going to I'd said there's 3 girls. So we've got the Noakes boat with Beck Hancock skippering, and then Emma Rankin skippers the Shore and Partners boat. And none of these girls are big girls. They're slight little girls. And when I was sailing in the Grand Prix 18-footers back in the 90s, Adrian Cahalan, who I'm sure you've heard of, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was sort of the broke the ground for women in 18-footers. Adrian was an amazing sailor, and once again, a really, really fairly slight young lady, and yeah, 18-footers are tough boats to sail, really tough boats to sail, and it doesn't matter if you're steering or in the crewing position; they're tough boats to sail. So, yeah, it's fantastic that we've got 3 girls competing in the Giltinan this year. Fantastic.
Yeah, it is indeed. Is that a high water mark? Is that the most that have competed? Do you remember?
I think 3 women competing is probably I wouldn't want to call it a record, but the more the better. Particularly in the skippering roles. Emma Rankin, she can really dish it up to the guys. She's got a fast boat. She's got a good crew. And yeah, given, I think the girls do find it tough when it gets over sort of 20 knots. You're really wrestling these boats around the course. And full credit to them for just getting it around the track. I've got to say these are gutsy girls. And Emma Rankin's a classic. She can have the toughest day, and she's always got a huge smile on her face. Whether win, lose, or draw, she comes in with. She just loves sailing 18-footers. It's great. Yeah.
Well, growing up, I remember we were always in awe of the 18s. We called them I-Deans. We thought that was the right thing. But growing up, we were always in awe. And, Ian Murray, who is one of my best friends in the sailing world, and he had a long streak, 5, 6, 7 years where he won successively?
Yeah, big fella won 6 in a row, mainly with the same crew, but he did have a couple of different crews early on. But yeah, one of two people who've won 6 in a row, and both the boats who did achieve 6 in a row were sponsored, were either Colour 7 in the big fella's day or Gotta Love It 7 in the more modern era. That was Sevi Jarvan. I don't know if you've heard of Sevi Jarvan, have you, Tom?
Only because I read up on it last night and this morning preparing for this show, and I saw that he won, 5 or 6 times more recently.
He won 6 in a row as well, yeah. So Sevi is the son of Steve Jarvan, Mothballs, they call him.
Yeah, okay.
He's a very accomplished sailor. Well, Skiff's in the old days, but he's won numerous Etchell Worlds. He's won a bunch of Etchell Worlds sailing with some pretty famous. I think he might have sailed with Dennis for a while there. Big DC.
Could have.
Yeah.
Well, we're wondering if we get, now that John and Lily seem to have moved to Australia, although they're headed back. They're headed back to Great Britain in a few days. But he is saying maybe Lily is going to try out on the 16s. While we're on that, tell us about the 14, 16s as well as the 18s. Not the pros and cons, but the differences. Compare and contrast.
There's 12s as well, Tom. So the 12s are probably I've besides my 18 career, I spent a fair bit of time sailing the 16 footers, and the 16 footers are the biggest and most popular class. Super strong competition. My kids sail in the 16 and the 13-foot skiffs. National titles, we get anywhere from 50 to 70 boats in the 16-footers. So big class. The 12-footers, they're just insane boats. We laugh that you have to be a little bit nuts to sail a 12-footer. They're 12-foot long. They carry a phenomenal amount of sail area. 2 guys on trapeze. And to get those things around the track, downwind, they're in the air more than they're in the water. They just come down and touch down occasionally. And then for the crew to go in and get this massive spinnaker packed and into the boat, they're crazy, crazy boats. The 14-footers, they've sort of waned in popularity here. Still sailed in a number of states around, not so strong in Sydney now. And they've sort of adapted to the international 14-foot skiff rules. But yeah, the 16s, the 18s, and the 12s are sort of the strong Aussie skiff classes, and we've got a 13-foot skiff, which is the leader class to the 16-foot skiff, sort of what the 29er is to the 49er.
To the 49er. Yeah, the gang in the chat, as you know, you've got a bunch of smart people here in the chat. Phil Yeomans is saying, yes, Mothy still does crew for DC on the Etchells, apparently. Christian Price saying, yeah, correct, Dolly. Mothy did sail with Dennis, and I don't know if you mean in 12s or other America's Cup, but he may have sailed in, I'm thinking from memory now, he may have sailed with Dennis in Auckland in those campaigns. Is that possible?
Yeah, in the Cup, do you mean? No, yeah. I don't think so. But certainly in the Etchells, I know he had a pretty long run sailing with DC over many years. Yeah.
Steve Groover is saying that when we get blown out at my junior sailing program, we rent movies and a projector from the library. An 18-footer movie from the 50s or 60s is always a favorite. That is for sure, because, as I said, it was something that we always aspired to do. And I think that's why I got into the Fireball in part, was because that was the closest thing we had to these 18s. In the overall standings, I read, Dolly, that Rag and Famish Hotel won the club championship title over Yandu, Balmain, and Vycobi. In the season point score, which is apparently a few more races, Rag and Famish Hotel won narrowly over Balmain, Vycobi, and Yandu. So those two separate series we were talking about. And you've been covering both. Let's play this video, shall we? I've got a really cool video. It's about 8 minutes long. Thanks also to the Priceys who were sending me material for this show and links to articles and so on. It's an 8-minute video, but it is so cool. Let's play the whole thing and then come back and have you give us the final update on all.
Just come on, just hit away, bow down, they're over down.
If we want to lose it before this boat.
This is a good race here for the lead between Balmain and the Rag and Famish. These Balmain boys are coming good at the right time. Vycobi looks strong too, and there's a bit of a graveyard down at Obelisk, as always is the case.
You guys got 3-point lead on the Rag. What's your strategy, Henry? Season points.
Yeah, keep it simple today, nice and clean, and stay within 3 minutes of the Rag.
Yes. You got 3 points on them, so there's a little bit of buffer.
Oh, 3 points. 3 points.
I just checked the scorecard. You're on 76 points. They're on 79.
Oh right. Oh,
so you got
sweet.
3. So you're not worried then. 3 points.
Oh right. Yeah, no, 3 points. All right. That's more relaxing. Yeah.
Well, in that case, we'll try and change everything and
all right.
do everything different.
Yeah, let's go a bit more extreme.
Let's go experimental.
Yeah.
3 points to make up on Balmain, Harry. 3 points. You reckon that's achievable today?
3 minutes, you say?
3 points. You're on 79. They're on 76. It's like the season point score.
Are they really? Oh, yeah. Anything can happen on a day like today. Southerly course down to Obelisk.
Yeah.
Wait and see. Who knows?
What odds out of 100 do you give yourself on being able to close that gap?
Probably a piece of piss, mate. We've been doing it all year and coming into the last race of the season, looking forward to it. Finally off scratch. We're on 1 minute today, so we'll wait and see. Be good.
So you reckon Balmain shouldn't be relaxed? They should be sweating bullets right now.
Rumour has it that they've been out partying all night into the wee hours of the morning, so they've probably made their bed already. Now they need to go and sleep in it.
Yo, how are ya?
You got interviewed because your sponsor of the day today.
Oh, nice.
Feeling any extra pressure with your sponsor out?
Nah, it should be a lovely day on the water. I got a few Smeg people out there, so we'll give it a red hot crack. And yeah, got the mighty Lindsay on board helping us fill in today, so it should be glamour.
1, 2, 3, 4. They always coming to me, say they know me, call me Stacy. I'm the F to the E, E the I the G, and ain't no other ladies put it down like me. I'm Fergalicious. And if you want ambiguous, I'll be up in the gym just working on my fitness. She's my witness. Ooh-wee! I put them boys on rock. Chaps are on today, I reckon, eh? I got lost main. And steering up hard after this. The line's gonna come fast. Can you back going? I think we should go.
The Queenslanders are down the leeward end with Kitchen Maker. There's a few boats just out of shot at the moment, really racking up for the boat end too, Pete. Vycobi, Yandu, Rag and Famish very strong at the committee boat. They're struggling for pressure, the whole fleet. There's a little bit of breeze over on the Bradley's head shore. Vycobi have tacked early.
Yep, let's go. Yep.
So, Peter, there's a few of the boats have elected not to send spinners on this run.
Ready, need your way, boys. Go up. Great driving, Kirk, good work. Keep coming up to it. Got good pressure in about 30 seconds. Fucking mint if we can make that headland. Heavy wind though. It's still lucky to late, mate. Where's our mark? All the way down. Hope we'll go another set. Keep pushing it though, eh? If we can hold this tight as close to the mark as we can get, the better we are. It's a pretty left angle here, Henry.
Almost on lay as well. We got to go soon. Really soft here if we tack. I think we got to go, Henry. On lay. Yeah, you go, Kyle. We'll do it later.
Finn going in now to get the shoot up. Now, Maine probably took their spinnaker off very early, I'd suggest, but anyway, good gusts around George's Head. They're around and on their way to Obelisk Mark. Rag and Famish, that yellow mark, that's the mark he's got to get to. Spinnaker going back up on the Vycobi to chase down the Rag and Famish. Kirk Mitchell, Andrew Stevenson, Daniel Barnett. They look like they've got some solid pressure there, so they'll probably lay down here. Yeah, they look nice at the moment. Great job again by Harry, Max and Finn, stamping their authority on this season so far. Here they come, couple of boat lengths to go. 3, 2, 1, gun. There they are. Right. Again, a very, very fine win. Kirk Mitchell and his Andrew Stevenson, Daniel Barnett. Good job, boys. 3 weeks in a row they've been second. Throwing sheet at it now, a bit of an overlay. Yeah. There they go at pace. A few supporters on the ferry. They like what they're seeing on the Vycobi. 3, 2, 1 now. Minute 12 unofficially, the time delta. Vycobi second, the Rag first, and then there is no third at the moment. They're a long way back.
Anchor.
Think you did enough, mate?
No, did Balmain do enough to lose it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
hard.
Close.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there was a few boats in there. Bigfoot got in there. Marine Outlet had a good day, so.
Yeah, how was the race? Like, what was it like?
Pretty hard, pretty tough sailing. I mean, especially in the bow, just a tough direction, a lot of dropping, a lot of rehoisting, a lot of right and shoot. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's where we like to show that we can hold it, keep it together when others can't. So, I guess.
Prep now looking like this week leading into the JJs.
I don't know, maybe do a few more sessions, dial in the rig a bit more, and just stay off the beers. Try and keep it all sort of kosher between now and then.
Yeah. What happened?
Jib halyard broke. Devastating. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think
coming second, and then it broke, and we just looked up. Oh no! But we managed to go down the downwind without the jib, and then repair it down the bottom to try and get back in the race. So hopefully we we hung in there a little bit. Yeah.
How do you repair it?
So just untied another rope on the boat that wasn't critical, and then used it on top of the jib to then tie it back up. So we had to capsize at the bottom mark, and then quickly tie it up and then get going again. So probably lost we lost quite a few places there, but managed to still stay in the race.
All right, well the results we'll see, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed. Oh well though. At least it's right before the JJs, so gives us a bit of a wake-up call. We'll do a once-over on every single rope on the boat and make sure we're not going to have another breakage.
What was the talk on the race course?
Only positive things.
Yeah.
A lot of chat about Kirky's good performance.
Yeah. What happened on that downwind?
So pretty much we were at the top mark and we had sixth on top of us, and then we had to make the bear away, get it done, and we probably went a bit too quickly. Boys just went for a trip around the front, and yeah, you see the boys landed on each other.
Awesome to have the club championship. It's one that Pete Caligras, sponsor, Rag and Famish owner, has been chasing for quite some time, and that was a non-negotiable for him at the start of the season, so we had to be on our game for the club championship races every week, so we have the same team, and it was pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good.
Yes, unbelievable.
For Harry Price to get up in front of a crowd like that and be so apparently so relaxed. I've known him for the better part of, I guess, 10 years. And Tom Grimes, who was doing the rapping in that video. Do you know Tom Grimes well, Dolly?
Yeah, and he's been a really great addition to the. He's come onto the Balmain this summer, and Tom's a really talented young sailor, and I've got to say I didn't know he was until I saw that video the other day. I didn't know he was such a talented rapper either. He's actually got a bit of skills there.
He does. He top bloke. I remember him from Gov Cup. Christian Price is reminding us too that he was the match racing youth world champion the year after Harry was. And of course, we know Harry from the Gov Cup as well. A top bloke, both of them, as you would say, and it's
yeah,
nice.
yeah. And
nice.
and Harry giving that brief acceptance speech there. I often say Harry likes to let his sailing do the talking.
Yes.
And not as much talking himself. So, but yeah, he's you mentioned the club championship and the club point score, which the RAG took out both. The club, just to clarify, the season point score is calculated from handicap results through the entire season. So as the boats perform week to week, their handicaps are adjusted accordingly. And the idea is at the end of the season they're pretty even. But yeah, that taking both those titles has given Rag and Famish a clean sweep of everything available this summer, and there's only one remaining, and that is the JJ Giltinan this coming week. So, we talk about the favourites, Tom. They're certainly they'd be if it was a horse race, they'd be on pretty short odds. That's for sure. Their teamwork between Harry, Max, and Finn that to me has been the difference. They're not markedly faster than the top boats. I'd say the top 5 or 6 boats, and I don't think they're markedly faster. They are in some conditions, but where their big gains are their boat handling and their manoeuvres. They've got the boat dialed in. They sail upwind. They have the wing just parallel with the water, and they trim the boat. It barely shifts laterally an inch. It's just they've got their crew work is astounding, and all 3 of them super talented. They can put Finn under immense pressure in the spinnaker drops, and he just manoeuvres having to control the kite to get around Shark Island or around some traffic on the harbour. He is one hell of a forward hand, I'll tell you. He can handle anything they throw at him. He just seems to deal with it. So to me, that's their strong point is their teamwork, their boat handling, and their ability to get the boat around the track in pretty much any condition. I was talking about the weather could play a role. I can see the weather, if we do get what we're expecting, fairly fruity conditions, that's going to play into the RAG's hands for sure. A dark horse that I just wanted to talk about, Thomas. We've got 3 Kiwi crews competing. We've got CTEC, ASCC, Arakuna Eatery. Actually 4. We've got Honda Marine as well. But the one that I think's going to be, I should add, these guys have been training in New Zealand. My spies tell me they've been training hard. And we know in Auckland, fruity conditions are par for the course. And in the 18-footers, we've always seen the Kiwis perform well when the conditions have been tough. Back in 18, 19, 20, the 3 years prior to COVID, we saw the JJ Giltinan won by Honda Marine, a guy called David McDermott, I think. McDermott was the skipper. And his crew at that time were Matt Stevens and Brad Collins. And those 2 crew, who are obviously very, very good, they've teamed up with Alex Vallings on CTEC. I don't know if you know of Alex Vallings. His nickname's Ginge. He owns owns the company, C-Tech, who were in New Zealand, very big carbon fibre manufacturing business, but had a lot of involvement with cup stuff, particularly in foils and battens. That team, they're a real unknown smoky. They're going to be we haven't seen them. They haven't sailed the last few weeks in Sydney, so we've got no idea how quick they're going. But I think they're really going to be one to watch myself.
Well, and the people don't realize this, but the Kiwis have quite a long history in the JJ. I didn't know this until preparing for this show, as this is the 90th anniversary, as we talked at the top of this segment, of this 18-footers league, even though they haven't had that many JJs. But here is the Kiwis winning it in 52 and 54 on a boat called Intrigue. So
yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised. And look at how many they've got, 5 people on this boat. And if I read correctly, they had 2 on the trapeze, and maybe that was all that was permitted at the time. And then another person, though, would lay out on top of the one trapezer.
Yeah, I think they were allowed 3 trapeze then, Tom. But yeah, crews, like I said, early days, they had 12 on board, and the Sydney 18-footers were famous for having football teams as their crew. And the historic 18 still race today in football jerseys for various teams. And then over the years, the crews reduced and reduced. They were 4 hands for a long time, 3 on wire with the skipper hiking. And then, of course, we went down to 3. And then we saw the introduction of the wings or racks on the sides of the boats. And back, they had unlimited, for a long time, the only 2 rules in 18-footer sailing, Tom and Julia, were they had to be 18 foot long and the start was at 2:30. And outside of that, you could do whatever you liked.
That's
and at one point, the World Championships were held on Waterloo Bay in Brisbane, and the wing widths grew out to 32 feet. 32 feet from one side to the other, which is more than twice as wide as what they are now. They're now 14 feet wide.
And it's amazing. It simply is amazing how a box rule, a simple rule, like even the deed of gift, we've said this on this show, not always, but it has produced. And after a few iterations, it might take a year or 2 or 3 in a box rule class, but you look at what goes on in the TP52 and the 52 Super Series, or on these boats, and I know they have a few more measurement rules now than they did back in the day, but still, astonishing, cool racing. You'll be on the call, as you say, with Peter Shipway. And who's your third?
James Bury. So James Bury is the founder and owner of the Sail Media Company. We've got 2 purpose-built camera catamarans, and James started the company, owns the company. He drives
is
the
that
main,
Sail Media?
the main boat.
Maybe you mentioned the Sail Media. Is that the name?
Sail Media, yeah. So James drives, and he also has a headset on and is in the commentary with myself and shippers, and then we've got a team of techs and cameramen and drone operators, and our amazing director Michael Chittenden sitting behind us, and yeah, we stream it live from the water, commentating from the boat. I promise, Tom, I'll never ever throw in a how's your timing. He got the whole shot, or that 18-footers are like NASCAR on water.
Well, and if you would just please stick to knots and not kilometers per hour, we'd be everybody on this show would be eternally grateful.
Yeah, no, we always deal in knots for both boat speed and wind strength. Sail Media. We keep it sailing orientated. We never dumb it down, but we do try and explain some things along the way through the season so that our non-sailors can understand a bit more about what the sailing and the skiffs are about. But yeah, no, we've got a really broad audience from all around the world, which is fantastic. And for those who want to try and find the racing, of course you can, as with Sailing Illustrated, you're always welcome to watch it back in replay. And the time that we stream obviously won't suit people all around the world. But if you go to YouTube and type in 18 Footers TV, that'll lead you to the live stream. We go live usually around 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time in Sydney, and the racing starts at 2:30. We still abide by that rule. It starts at 2:30. Yeah.
2:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. You're on summertime, so we are 5 hours ahead of you the day before. So 2:30 is 7:30, 19:30 for us on our Friday evening, and 3 hours later on the East Coast, and add 9 to us for those of you in Europe, UTC. So that middle of your Saturday morning. This is fantastic. One more question, if I may, Dolly, is what is the betting scene? Because I think there was betting, gambling on 18-footer racing way before there was anything else in the America's Cup permitted or otherwise. You still have the big ferry boats that go out, and you still have the
big ferries go out with the spectators on board, Tom, and I'll neither deny or confirm that there might be
oh yes
that there might be gambling taking place.
Why is it not legal? Is it not permitted?
Well, it's let's say it's permitted. A few people just having a sly wager, let's say, on the side with the racing, but it is an integral part of the history. Is gambling on 18-footers, and it's part of James J. Giltinan's legacy. Was the 18-footers on a Sunday kind of came about because there was no gambling, there was no horse racing, there was no rugby league on the Sunday, which were the two big sports.
So you went out and bet on the yachties.
Yeah, and that's where the original crowds came from, Tom and Julia.
Yeah.
So that first J.J. Giltinan on Sydney Harbour in 1938 was widely promoted by J.J. Giltinan as the new big thing. And when Bert Swinburne, the winning skipper, was awarded the ribbon at Circular Quay, which is next, it would have been next to where the famous Sydney Opera House is now. Right. The Opera House obviously wasn't there then. There was reportedly 10,000 people lined the shores as after the racing to see him
What
awarded.
year was that?
That was 1938, Julia.
Vintage year.
Yeah, but yeah, if you go back to those years, they used to have 5 or 6 spectator ferries out on the harbour to cater for the people who wanted to come out and watch the 18-footers. Including my parents. My parents were fanatical about. My mother, in particular, had a great passion for watching the 18-footers. So they were pretty happy when I started sailing 18-footers. And Dad used to never tell me if he was coming down to watch because I didn't actually like them watching. So he used to sneak down to Bradley's Head and watch from Bradley's Head, without me knowing. And then I'd get home. Then I'd get home and be critiqued on my performance.
as you would. Hey,
but the other big favourites, Tom, are definitely Finport and Yandu. and then Balmain and Vycobi. They're along with that Kiwi boat I mentioned and the Germans as an outsider. They're the real key players I can see that are going to make a dent in this championship.
Dolly, may I ask you one more question?
For sure.
And I this may be something coming from Australia from our mutual friend Pedro Foiling Sailor, aka Peter Stevenson. And it may be a bit of a cheeky question. Tom, why is Andrew Dolly Divola called a knob?
A knob? Well, Pedro and I are both knobs. So a knob is a Newington old boy. So Newington School is it's a what we call a GPS, a private school with a very long history of producing fine, overachieving young men, of which Peter and I both broke the mould.
Okay, well,
but
I'm glad we asked.
My family had a very long history with the school, and my uncle was a teacher there for 50 years. But yeah, Peter and I connected. It's probably a bit over 10 years ago now. We worked on a couple of projects, foiling projects, obviously, with my involvement in my business, boat building business, which was a carbon fibre specialist business. But my son, the project we did, my son became the test pilot, and the result of that was the America's Cup in San Fran had, I think, 15 or 20 foiling open bicks there. So our mission given to us by Sir Russell was to get a foiling, an open bick boat to foil so that they could have them sailing in front of the grandstands in San Francisco.
Well, we shall look forward to hearing your dulcet tones.
Yes, indeed.
On our Friday night, on your Saturday beginning at 2 for racing that starts at 2:30 in Australia, in Sydney, and that is our Friday night at 1900, Julia, 1900 our time, and we shall look forward to that very much. You'll be calling all the races with Peter Shipway, through the 16th, the 2025 J.J. Giltinan Championship. And who should we finally rag? The rag, is that our favorite? Is that who we should put our money on?
Yeah, the rag are definitely a firm favourite, and like I say, I think the fruitier the conditions are, I think it's going to play into their hands. But yeah, Finport Yandu, SeaTech, with Vycobi and Balmain, Lazarus are another good boat. But yeah, I think the cream, by the time you get to 9 races, it's about who can string it together for a week. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But I know for one thing, it's going to be a great week of sailing, and for those watching from home, we'll endeavour to bring you the best coverage that we can, and we hope you all tune in or watch in replay at least some of the races and enjoy it.
I'm sure most everybody on here will do just that.
Absolutely.
Dolly, and I want to just say it's so good that you are calling the races from on the water. Andy Rose, who you know or know of, and those of us that do the Gov Cup, it's always been our feeling that doing it on the water as opposed to in the sound booth back at the yacht club or back in London or wherever the television show is originating from in the TV studio, it's not the same. You've got to be out on the water so you can see at least reasonably well what the sailors are saying. Totally agree. We've learned a lot today from you. I think this has been one of the most informative segments, Julie, we've ever had. And I know that we now know how to pronounce Kookaburra. How was that?
Beautiful, Tom.
Kookaburra.
Yeah, perfect, mate. Yeah.
We have a new word that will forever be in the Sailing Illustrated lexicon: fruity.
Fruity, I
meaning
know.
something other than what it means here in San Francisco. Fruity, meaning windy, meaning big air,
as opposed to
meaning fresh air.
Fruity. Yeah. Yeah.
And one for you. Here's one for you, because Andrew McIrvin is reminding us that he once called our beloved city here San Fran, and the locals, that's like taking your fingernails and going down the chalkboard. It doesn't bother me. I'm not a local. I'm a carpetbagger, but Julia probably bothers. And San Fran bugs the hell out of people here in San Francisco. They much prefer the Bay Area.
Or San Francisco.
Or San Francisco, but not Frisco and not San Fran. They hate that for some reason, right, Julia?
Yes.
Dolly, fantastic.
Tom, I've got a little question without notice for you.
Okay, please.
Being an America's Cup guy, so four sailors who were involved in the Australia 2 campaign, which was, the greatest day of my life when we took the America's Cup off the Americans. Apologies to you guys.
Oh dear.
But there was 4 Australia 2 team members who've won the JJ Giltinan.
Wow.
Over the years. Do you know who any of those are, Tom?
4 Australia 2 members who have won the JJ. Well, did Bertrand win the JJ?
No.
Did John Longley win the JJ?
No. I'll give you a couple of hints. So the first one who won in 1961 ended up changing his name.
Oh, I know who won. Ben Lexon. I saw that reading about it last night. He wasn't on the boat, but he was obviously
but involved in the team.
Obviously, with the team as the designer.
Obviously, the designer at the time he was Bob Miller. 1961.
Yeah.
1968 was Kenny Beashall.
Oh, was Ken Beashall on there? Beashall, yeah. Wow.
And then 1970, Huey Trahan.
Yeah, Alistair Murray is tipped us off. He says Huey Trahan, and then Rob Brown was the other.
And then Rob Brown won 3. So Rob Brown was in my era in the 18-footers, and Brownie won.
Grant Simmer never won it?
No.
Yeah, Chris.
It's not an easy one to win, but when you go through the list, it's a long list. Unfortunately, for some of us who were on the professional tour for 10 years, the Grand Prix Sailing Professional Tour, we weren't allowed to sail in the JJ Giltinan. So I think I did 3 JJ Giltinans, and my best position was a 3rd.
Why weren't you allowed to sail? Was it amateur only?
Yeah, it was Grand Prix Sailing was a breakaway group. So they decided that because we weren't sailing at the club every week, we weren't going to be eligible. It was a bit of a controversial time, but 18-footers like that original breakaway group, over the years, there's always been a bit of toing and froing, but luckily enough, I did get to sail in 3. It's a beautiful trophy, Tom and Julia. It's one of the most beautiful sailing trophies I've seen. I've contested for anyway. Beautiful sterling silver globe of the world with cutouts, and it's a beautiful, beautiful trophy. Yeah. And obviously very old.
Well, you stirred it up in the chat because Ed Worley's asking, Ian Murray also won. Well, yes, he did win 6 times with, I remember the name of his boat, Color 7. I think you mentioned it earlier, but Color 7 with Ian Murray. And then he was not, however, with Australia 2. He was with One Australia.
And then the Kookaburra song.
And he was
the Kookaburra.
The Kookaburra. The Kookaburras. And who was their helm?
My memory is terrible, but and I'm trying to think of it. I can even see his face.
Another superb match racer, another Gov Cup.
Indeed,
I think he sailed the Gov Cup.
You know it.
Peter. Gilmore.
Pete Gilmore, definitely a superb match racer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And now Peter's boys are very successful, particularly in the 49er class.
And while we're on trivia, do you know what Peter Gilmore is doing now?
No, I don't, Tom.
He's raising Wagyu beef.
Ah, yeah.
He's a farmer, and a cattle rancher, and apparently raises great stuff. Maybe more than raises it. I think he's also in the internet. I hope he doesn't have any Because see, Trump hasn't put any
Tariffs
on Australia.
Tariffs on
Wagyu
our beef, yeah.
Wagyu.
Yeah.
Wagyu, I think, is a proper pronunciation, right? Yeah, that's what Christian Price is confirming. Andrew, this has been a delight. No surprise. Delighted
Absolutely
to have you on, and I think our everybody watching has just loved this show.
No question.
Yeah. Hopefully, I've given you all a bit of an insight into the 18-footers, and look, thanks for having me on. It was great to speak to you both, and to the Fosey.
Well, one last observation, and I got you on the close-up cam here, but I'll put you back on the studio cam. It's astonishing to think, and I was laying in bed this morning thinking, we did a tech check yesterday, Julia. Yeah. I don't think I told you that. Yeah. And Dolly called me. He says, I'm not in my office. I'm up here at, a vacation spot on the shore of the lake.
Yeah.
How's this connection going to work? So we're on Skype. He's got his phone. He's on the cellular system. Okay, it's 4G, not 5G. But look at this connection.
Oh, yes.
The connection has not dropped a single frame. Mm-mm. His AV sync, the audio visual, meaning his lip sync, is perfect. The connection has been perfect. And then we got all these, characters on from all over the world commenting real time. It's just an astonishing technology and an amazing world that we now live in.
Yes, it's wonderful.
It is, and I'm literally in the middle of nowhere, Tom. But there is a couple of towns on the other side of the lake from where I am. But that's a fair distance, though. But great. It's actually kind of disappointing because I used to be able to come up here and have zero reception, and I couldn't be contacted. My wife and family didn't know if I was alive or dead, that was part of the beauty of escaping up here was getting away from all the technology and getting back to basics. So I've got my tent set up there and a little camp kitchen and it's just a beautiful relaxing place to be. I've just got my windsurfer and a few bits and pieces, and I'm happy as up here just for having a little bit of a break before a week of sailing starts.
Would we call you a jolly swagman?
Yeah, and you could literally disappear up here, Tom, and yeah.
Remind me again the area you're at.
So where I actually am is a place called Mungo Brush. That's an Aboriginal word. Mm-hmm. Very, very, very strong and mixed Aboriginal history through this area, because just not far from where I am here, there's a place called Dark Point, which let's just say the early settlers didn't do some very nice things up here. There was a massacre they basically herded the indigenous people from the area out onto to Dark Point, hence the name, and massacred them. Very, very dark. Sorry to leave you on that note, but a very dark part of our history, and that's an area. You actually go there and you have a strange sense that something's not right. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
It's good to know these things, good, bad, or otherwise, about what's going on in the world. That's one of the great things I think about the Fosey and about our guests is to have people like you from who would have thought. I'm going back now. Clark Chapin's on here, of course, and from my home little club in Michigan, and Clark and I have sailed together a lot. Who would have thought when we were talking about, boy, it would be cool to sail Aussie 18s back this is like in the 70s, maybe even in the 60s. Who would have thought, okay, it's a lot of years later, 50 plus years later, we're sitting here live with one of the world's experts and former 18 sailor himself, live from the shoreside on a lake north of Sydney, previewing the upcoming JJ Giltinan. It's just fabulous. Thank you, Dolly. Thank you very much. The Christian Price calls you the Dolly Swagman.
That's great.
Huh?
Yes.
Some people call me the Dalai Lama because I'm so old and wise.
You are that and more.
Yes.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Andrew. Thank you, Dolly. Much appreciated. We'll talk soon.
A pleasure.
Have a great.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Well, Julia, that was special.
Oh, yes.
Huh?
I loved it. Yeah.
That was special.
The Dolly Swagman.
The Dolly Swagman. Again, you can tune in on YouTube. They'll be covering all the racing starting this Saturday, Australian time, at 2:30 in the afternoon. You can do your own math, but it runs the 7th through the 16th of March. Again, Australian dating. The 2025 Winnings, sponsored by the Winnings family, Winnings Company, J.J. Giltinan World Trophy Championship. And what a cool interview, Julia, that was.
Yes.
With Andrew Dolly Divola. Now, Julia, let's move smartly forward here. You know that we had a bit of a discussion about our news in brief intro slides.
Yes.
Well, I asked for any submissions, and Ed Worley sent one, and a couple, 3 other people. Ted Ryman, I think, sent one. But they were not, they were more about breaking news. And we don't want this segment to be about breaking news. We want this just a quick news in brief, some other shorties, some headline type news. Headline news is almost, but just some other stories. So I've done my own slide. Here 'tis.
Yes.
Code flag L rises up the slide, come within hail. I showed this to Ed Worley, and he approved, I think, and I hope Clark Chapin will approve, he being the race committee maven that he is.
Yes.
Today's news brief. I'm going to play it again just so you see it. That's what a race committee would raise code flag L, Lima, to say, come within hail, or there's a notice posted on the notice board, the official regatta notice board.
That works.
Hence this slide. I hope you approve, Julia.
I do. It works.
Ed Worley gave it 2 thumbs up, so that's good. Okay, thank you. So here is our news briefs, the Sailing Illustrated news briefs for today. There's this cool regatta. I teased this in the show notes. Cool regatta has been going on for, I don't know, 15 years, 10 years, called the Valencia Opti Orange. And, of course, oranges that's along with rice, one of the big crops there in Valencia. This is in Spain. 520 sailors from 29 countries descended on Valencia for this year's Opti Orange. It wrapped up on Sunday, and it was a cool event. And unfortunately, they had too much breeze to race on Sunday, but they released the 4th and final video nonetheless. Here it is.
Outside we have strong wind conditions. We are in about 25 knots with gust of 32, 34, and the waves they're about 3 meters, and they're breaking when the gust goes up.
Bastante bien, bastante emocionado. Me hubiera gustado haber definido el campeonato en flotas de oro, pero bueno, victoria es victoria. O sea, estuve adelante desde el comienzo, me mantuve y mala suerte que no se haya navegado hoy día.
I'm really happy. I never gave up, and so give the better I could do. I feel I really progressed in 1 year.
Como he dicho antes, la Opti Orange es una regata muy importante para mí y pues muy feliz estoy.
It brings your experience higher, and then if you make any mistakes throughout the event, you learn from them, and then you know not to do them again.
It's been good. It's been hard with all types of conditions, but I think I did pretty good.
Me hace sentir alegría ver cada año que viene más gente a participar en esta regata y ver cómo todo el mundo la disfruta.
Es una gran fiesta para ellos.
We need orange juice for the best results.
Y bueno, y al final se está convirtiendo en una cita obligatoria y a la que todos quieren venir cada año. Y los esperamos en la próxima edición.
What a fabulous sport, and Clark Chapin, I agree, what a great logo. I mean, it's just, we are so blessed, Julie. We're so lucky, and those kids are so adorable, all of them. And I was once a member of that club, an honorary member. They made all of us connected with the Cup in the Valencia days, honorary members of the Real Club Náutico Valencia. So I'm very proud to have done. We played more tennis there than I think we did sailing. But fun event. It's been going on for, I think, 10 years. I'm not quite sure, give or take. And what's Lance Burke is saying, I've worked safety for the St. Francis Yacht Club Opti's heavy weather regatta here on the bay several times in conditions near 30 knots. The kids are amazing. And, of course, have to bail like crazy because those boats are not dry, and they in any seaway at all, you're bailing. In fact, there was somebody sent me a video a couple weeks ago of a kid with an Opti that was in a pool, and they had some fans, or maybe it was using natural wind, but in an outdoor pool, the Opti was tied to the middle of the pool, and they were sitting there practicing hiking and steering and trimming, but also bailing. Somebody had a hose that was spraying the hose into the boat, and they're bailing with their baler. That's what the kids do in the Opti class. So cool stuff, cool regatta, and that's our first news brief. Second, Vendée Globe, day 114. And we have actually two finishers. We've got 31, and this was finisher number 32. Fabrice Amedeo, I guess you pronounce that, finished 32nd in the Vendée Globe. Former political journalist turned ocean racer Fabrice Amedeo the French guy, completed his second Vendée Globe Tuesday, when he crossed Le Sable d'Olonne finish at 1400 hours UTC to take 32nd place. Only Belgian skipper Dennis van Wijnberg, something like that, is left racing. Amadeo's elapsed time is 114 days, an hour, 58 minutes, though his result is somewhat behind his initial hopes.
Yes.
Hopes and expectations. What kind of a comment was that? Poor guy. But he's still, nonetheless, look at the reception he gets.
Well, yeah,
today.
there was a great comment, series of comments about that, too.
And there's still one more to go, but he got all the usual, rah, and it was good stuff. Lots of people on shore, and he today finished 32nd. And see that little number there next to the, this is a screen grab of the YouTube.
Yeah.
They live streamed his finish today for 5 hours, 24 minutes.
Wow.
So notwithstanding that he's 32nd out of what's going to be 33 finishers, 40 starters, he still got 5 hours of live stream. This event organizer is fantastic.
Well, and he had a great audience.
Well, they had a great audience, but it's for sponsor fulfillment.
Yeah.
So his sponsor gets some airtime and they can use the video and so on.
Yeah.
But look at these pictures. Great stuff. The kids are out there on the chase boat, on the rubber boat, on the rib. Fabulous fab. Fabulous. And here he is again. He's getting some sponsor visibility right here on Sailing Illustrated with his flare as he's coming in. The Beneto's got a TV boat over there alongside him. Great stuff. Terrific stuff. And there's only one to go now, and that is the aforementioned Dennis van Wijnberg, who is Belgian. And his ETA is now Saturday. He's actually got his main up and going better. So he's going to finish, we hope, he's going to finish 33rd and last on Saturday. The time limit, unfortunately, is, I think, Saturday morning. So I hope they'll give him all due respect and recognition.
There's been great discussion about that, so I think they will.
I hope so. 114 days for 32nd place in the Vendée. Steve Gruber is saying it's not that long ago that would have won the race. Such an advancement. Our sport is indeed amazing. But he did it nonetheless, and I hope this guy makes it too. We'll let you know next week if he did. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is, if he did at all, and presumably he will.
He will.
And whether he does it by the time limit, but I'm sure they'll recognize him. Finally, the Bacardi Cup is underway in Miami, and the first race which was yesterday. It runs the 3rd through the 8th. It kicked off in spectacular fashion, living up to its reputation there on Biscayne Bay with 65 star teams competing. The opening day delivered thrilling action and set the tone for what promised to be an unforgettable week of racing, which it always is. Yeah. A steady easterly breeze of 11 to 13 knots, not kilometers per hour, provided perfect conditions for the opener. Defending champions and 5-time winners Mateusz Kuznierovic and Bruno Prada, perennial winners in that class, need no introduction. Once again, they proved their dominance, applying relentless pressure on the fleet in a nail-biting finish. They clinched victory in the final meters by the narrowest of margins, edging out John Dane, who's I think older than I, so bravo Zulu to John again, and Marcus Coy, who was crewing for him. And as several of you said, bravo Zulu to classes like the 18s, the 18-footers who name, and you saw how Dolly was naming all of the crew, skipper and the crew, and he knew them, he knew what their role was on the boat. So important in our beloved sport, and you see the Star class always doing that as well, because it is a two-person team, and they both have got to be superb if they're going to win in that class.
Right.
Clark is saying, whenever I think of the Bacardi Cup, I remember the late, great Ding Schoonmaker. Indeed, one of my mentors, that is Clark's mentors, and he was not only a mentor of mine, he was like a big brother. We were best friends for many, many years, and real buddies, and we helped move the sport along in this country and internationally when he was vice president of World Sailing back in the day, ISAF and IWRU, and I was the head of our delegation on the council. The photos I saw looked a lot more like 13 knots, Baton Rouge is saying. I don't know if he means the photos here in Miami. I think he does mean that. Let's just back the lower third off. Well, maybe. It's lumpy, but you know what? It's shallow, and Biscayne Bay is shallow, and it can be lumpy, as you all probably know who've been sailing down there. So that is our news in brief. Come within hail. Ooh, God, that's loud. I got to turn that down. It blew my ear out, Julie. But you see, look at it again.
Yeah.
There it is. Then this is the outro slide. The flag comes down, and that's what the race committee does when they lower code flag L. When they do that out on the water to get I changed slides here. To get it's like the ducklings following the mama duck. It's to get the boats, when the race committee has decided to move the starting area from here to there, up goes Codell, one horn. And I had to look, Clark. I did check to be sure it's one horn up and one horn with it down. And that's follow me. Come within hail, we're going to tell you something, or follow me, we're going to take you someplace else.
Yeah.
Or on shore, Codell, when it goes up on the flagpole, says there's a notice that's been posted on the official regatta notice board. All of which, it seems to me, is apropos news in brief.
Yes.
I'm hurt, though, nobody liked my other two slides.
Well, this is more clever.
You think?
Yes.
I think this is rather dull and boring, but then that fits me. That fits our show, probably. Dull and boring.
No.
Julia? Not dull and boring is Jon Emmett's latest report. He comes to us still from Australia. He's on the Perpetual Summer Program, the Coaching Corner with our super fozy Jon Emmett. And this is where he is now. He's still in Sydney, and he's at the Middle Harbour Yacht Club up there near Manly. See that? Reach up there, Julia.
I've been there.
That's in Mosman, as you will know.
Yeah.
In that part of North Sydney, and from whence he reports today.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fosies. So today I'm in Middle Harbour, and it's around this area that the Australian sailing team sail. In fact, I was out there today in an Ilka, and I did see them, but actually they were just finishing as we were just starting. But it's a beautiful area here, Sydney. So many sailing clubs, and I think I've already run out of time to see them all. In fact, it's nearly time to go to dinner. But the thing I wanted to talk to again was about volunteers, because it's such a big part of our sport, and organisations like class associations, World Sailing, clubs, etc., they don't actually have the bandwidth to do everything without volunteers. The volunteers add a huge amount of value to the clubs, the classes, and indeed World Sailing. So Sydney this month is going to be hosting the Hands of World. I think that's something that's really going to be a top event. There'll be other para classes also included. But all these regattas are always put together by an amazing number of volunteers. And that's such an important thing. And I said the big thing for me, my goal is about inclusivity of sailing, and to try and get parasailing back in the Paralympics. Now, the way it got into start, as we saw on the show, was through the demo event. So really hoping we can get a demo event in 2032 because it's one step at a time. You don't eat an elephant all in one bite. There's lots and lots of little pieces. So what we need to do as volunteers is just try and promote every single inclusive event that we see, and then hopefully behind the scenes the powers that be will help us put on an event, whether that's at Brisbane or somewhere slightly further north, I don't know. But just try and reach out now, because when you look at World Sailing, they have just one para manager, which is Hannah Stodel, who will be racing in Sydney herself, and she has done an absolutely amazing job. You know what? Many hands make light work, and we all need to try and do our little bit. Going to be back off to the UK very soon, so wishing you lots of fun. I'm going to try and join you on the show. I think the next couple of shows I may literally be watching from an airport. So sail fast, sail safe, and have lots and lots of fun.
I think he had his camera operator again.
I think he did too.
He had Lily there. That's a beautiful area. You've been there, right, Julia?
Yeah.
You know the area. Fabulous. Okay, that's Jon Emmett, and that is a little text we had back and forth after he sent his video, and I said, when are you back to GBR? He said, the end of the week. I'm actually watching Friday's show from the Doha airport. You know where the Doha airport is, Julia?
I saw that and I couldn't.
Qatar, Doha Airport.
I didn't know that.
You won, I said, then you won the ILCA 6 Masters, right? How did Pedro do, meaning Peter Stevenson?
Yeah.
He said, yes, I won the ILCA 6 Australian Masters and the Vaucluse Regatta. Yesterday, I trained with the Australian sailing team girls, which was fun, and I learned a lot. He probably taught them a lot, too.
Yeah.
Pedro was second at the ILCA 4 Masters Nationals. So one regatta in Melbourne and one in Sydney. I'm in an Uber now to the airport, and he's going back to Melbourne, and then I believe flying from there to Doha and then back to Great Britain, and no longer on the perpetual summer program because it's not quite summer in the UK, Julia.
Yes.
But that's Jon Emmett's report. Jon Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet. And we are joining him, as you know, in every show, pushing for this, asking our Australian friends and asking all of you around the world to push your national authorities, your MNAs, and pushing, especially in Australia, for a demonstration event in Brisbane 2032 to get parasailing back into the Olympics, even as a demonstration event. It's the only way it's going to happen. And then maybe from there, we can have it in the regular Paralympics going forward. Yes, we sail, and we're going to look forward to some reports from Jon, from Magnus the Magnificent, and maybe even Andrew McIrvin, who know the gentleman who is Spanish, who is going to sail. He's blind, who's going to sail, or was going to sail, maybe already has, sail around the Isle of Wight.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we are all in the same boat, Dan Jaspers is saying. So we'll keep pushing that. Thank you, Jon Emmett, for that.
I did find the blind sailors and two organizations which I worked with a long time before. One was the
this you brought up on the Friday show, yeah.
The first group is the blind sailors who did circumnavigation, and they are
relatively easier than sailing alone around the Isle of Wight. I mean, a circumnavigation on a boat. Were they alone?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that seemed pretty good too. Okay, our wonderful sport. And thank you for that, Julia. And by the way, Clark, I've gone and looked in my rule book. I just looked it up online, and somebody must have been wrong. You see that code flag I there, Julia? It's got to get the auto fuckus working here. I'm going to have to put that in.
Oh, it's, the red.
No, it's the yellow flag with a black. Oh, that's code flag I. Hang on. That's code flag L. It's just one horn. There it is down at the bottom. Code flag L. That little dot next to it means one horn when it goes up. The up arrow. There's nothing about a horn when it goes down. So
the one next to it has five
yeah,
things.
I must be a bit horny here. I got carried away with our horns, Julia.
I know.
No, I'll fix the slide. Thank you, Clark. I appreciate you catching that. Andrew is saying, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, he met him, the blind sailor, on Saturday, whom Magnus the Magnificent wrote about last week. Very impressive guy. The plan is for July, August. So remember, Andrew was saying he was going to try to talk him out of doing it during Cows Week.
Yes.
Because it's rather busy then. That
Yes.
doesn't seem like a safe thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, we're not all in the same boat. We're all in the same storm, but some of us have much nicer boats. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like Julia, you have a nice boat.
Oh, yes.
Down in the garage, up in the rafters. She won't let me take that out of the rafters.
No, it'll probably fall apart.
It's nice. Well, no, it's a glass boat. It's not wood.
Oh,
it's
that's right.
glass. I keep telling you, it's glass. It hasn't been registered since 1984.
Yes.
That's 41 years ago.
Yes, that's when I arrived on the scene.
You arrived on the scene, and you and Conrad put that up in the rafters of the garage?
He had it. No, he had it up before.
And it's full of stuff. So not only if we lowered that down to save us in a tsunami,
yes,
an earthquake tsunami, Julia, I wouldn't be able to lower it down, let alone get into it. And we sure as hell wouldn't get you into it. We got to sell that. And we got to get Lance Burke to come collect that out of the roof of your garage.
Why?
Why not?
I think it's more interesting that it's there than if it's gone.
It's a good Boston whaler. It could be put to good use over there in the club program at the Golden Gate Yacht Club or the St. Francis Yacht Club. You just want to have a Beach Street Yacht Club race committee boat.
How could I be a member of a yacht club and not have a boat?
Well, we'll find another one. We'll get you to be a co-owner in some other boat.
I've done that route. It's too late.
Clark Chapin, Matt Bounds, whom we both know is a super race officer, he says, Clark has CDO. It's like OCD, but it's alphabetized the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, Clark, but thanks for catching that.
That's lovely.
Thank you. Is Andrew still standing by there? Is he still watching us live?
Yep.
I think that's a frozen.
Oh, it is.
I think that he's turned off. So that's the software keeps the last frame. If somebody disconnects, it saves the last frame.
Oh, that's good.
In case you need to have some continuity. Fog Machine is saying, time to call the junk busters. J. Frederick Bland. Oh, my goodness. Julia, do you know what happened this day in history? This is for all of our British friends. And Andrew McIrvin says your private jet will do. As soon as you get that, you don't need a boat in the garage here. You have your personal jet.
As soon as I get my personal jet, I'll get rid of the boat.
Andrew, that's a good call, Andrew. Your private jet will do. Julia, what happened on this day in history? 1974.
Oh, 74.
And here is the clue for everybody. And if anybody gets it, other than maybe a Brit or two, I'll be amazed. You recognize that building?
Yeah, 10 Downing.
Correct. You recognize that gentleman? He's a sailor. Famous sailor. Former Prime Minister.
I don't know who that is, though.
Okay, he dips into the car, and there's his picture. Edward Heath, Cox Richardson, Chris Exley, E. Heath. Andrew McIrvin's got it. Yes, that is Edward Heath. And what happened? Ted Heath, better known, Thierry de Jong knows. And who is that gentleman? Mountbatten. No, J. Frederick Bland. Well, you're an American. We wouldn't expect him to know Ted Heath, would we? In what attire will Tom be washing Julia's new jet? And will banjo music be the soundtrack? Who are these two gentlemen? Harold Wilson and Edward Heath. And what happened on this day in history?
They must have changed places.
You're correct, Julia. Well done. It's exactly right on this day in history. British Prime Minister Edward Heath, well, he had resigned previously, but it became formalized on this day, went over and told the Queen, well, I'm stepping down, and British Prime Minister Harold Wilson became the Prime Minister on this date, on 4th of March, 1974. But here's a little bit of a coda if you're a musician. He was a musician, as well as a sailor and a diplomat. Mm-hmm. and statesman, he'd like to be called. Ted Heath owned 5 offshore yachts, all named Morning Cloud.
Wow.
And with various success rates. Heath was a keen yachtsman. He bought his first yacht, Morning Cloud, in 1969 and won the Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race that year.
Wow.
He captained Britain's winning team for the Admirals Cup in 71, apropos our superb guest last Friday, Andrew McIrvin. And that's while he was prime minister. And he also captained the team in the 79 Fastnet. Remember the awful, horrible 79 Fastnet race? He was a member of the Broadstairs Sailing Club. I have no idea. Somebody put in the chat, please, where that was. Where is the Broadstairs Sailing Club? Where he learnt to sail on a snipe and a fireball before moving on to success in larger boats and into politics. And here is a brief video about his yachts.
A launching to on the River Hamble in southern England, but not a gun in sight. Morning Cloud 5 is the latest pride and joy of former Premier Mr. Ted Heath. Mr. Heath's stepmother, Mrs. Mary Heath, performs the naming ceremony. Second time lucky. That's the last Morning Cloud will see of liquor. Rule number 1, at sea, no hard stuff. For those who go down to the sea in yachts, big sailing is an expensive business. Morning Cloud 5 will cost all of £80,000, but for her skipper, it's money well spent. He plans to match her against the world's best in this year's Admirals Cup Series. Outward bound for the first time on sail trials, with a proud captain at the helm. She seems to handle well enough, but then she should. Designed by brilliant New Zealander Ron Holland, Morning Cloud 5 is aluminium-hulled, 44 feet overall, with a 13-foot beam. Much of the living space has been sacrificed for sail storage. The little lady's made for racing, not comfort. It's going to be a busy summer for Skipper Heath, possible elections pending, for Morning Cloud 5, that Admirals Cup to win.
That was his 5th and final boat. And you heard who it was designed by. He slept here in the studio. Ron Holland did.
Ron Holland.
Still overlapping jibs in those days. Yeah, I love the music, Alan Long. I agree. It was really, really cool stuff. So that boat designed by Ron Holland, Holland Deck Materials of aluminum. It cost what? Under 100,000 pounds, I guess. It's hard to believe. In a channel race during the British team trials, it lost its rudder. It was a new carbon fiber prototype. They were very proud of that. And then in the 79 Fastnet race, which was part of the Admirals Cup, it was turned upside down by a huge wave after rounding the Fastnet Rock at 0100. But despite suffering some damage and shock to the whole crew, it was still able to finish.
Wow.
So, there was there was loss of life, sadly, in that race. Heath was on board for all the races of the Admirals Cup, including the Fastnet race. Heath sold the boat in 1983, and of course, the superstition is you do a champagne crash like that, and if the bottle doesn't break on the first crash, the boat is toast.
Yeah.
It will never be correct. Got to be sure. You got to score the bottle with a knife and be sure and you got to practice and rehearse, and you got to be sure that other bottles that you do exactly precisely the same way. Man, oh man. Okay, so that was Edward Heath. Now, he was also, this will make Claire Harrington, who's not able to watch today, she texted me this morning. It's nice when people text you and apologize for not being able to watch. He was a consummate musician. I didn't know this. He maintained an interest in classical music as a pianist, organist, and orchestral conductor, famously installing a Steinway Grand in 10 Downing Street, bought with some prize money that he won for his the Charlemagne Prize for his unsuccessful efforts to bring Britain into the EEC in '63. He also, from memory, did the decimalization. Is that a word?
Oh, yeah?
I didn't go to Stanford, so tell me if that word is correct.
I don't know.
He decimalized the pound. So instead of the shilling and all those other things,
Yeah.
he decimalized it. at least under his watch. And the pianist, anyway, he also conducted and so on. But he went to Oxford. He went to Oxford on an organ scholarship.
Wow.
If you can believe that. He also was a writer later in life. He wrote books several books, including one on sailing and one on music, as you can see here. Decimation.
Oh.
That doesn't sound right, J. Frederick Bland. Decimation. That sounds like when you destroy something. You
but it's
decimate
not
it.
spelled that way. So decimation is probably right.
So there's his gravestone. Or he was cremated and then buried. I can't remember now where, but he was an MP for 51 years.
Gosh.
And
Statesman, musician, and sailor.
Yeah, isn't that cool? I thought you'd like that.
I do.
PM for 4 years, a little under 4 years. Edward Heath, 1916 to 2005, and on this day he resigned as PM, 4th of March, 1974. That, Julia, is 51 years ago.
Wow.
Hard to believe. Decimalization is correct. Thank you, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Julia, for a country boy from Michigan who went to a public high school and college, in the American sense of the word, that's not too bad. He was an impressive person. He never married. Alistair Murray is saying, notwithstanding some of the accusations later in his life, which apparently were never proven, but he was a controversial character, and also he had, you know, who was in his cabinet, one of his people that he promoted, and then she kind of overcame him, if that's the right word. Margaret Thatcher.
Thatcher.
She was a decimation, no bueno. Historical, the killing of one in every 10 of a group of people as a punishment for the whole group, originally with reference to a mutinous Roman legion.
Really?
We learned a new word, decimation, like as in 10.
Yeah.
Oh, we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot today. Kookaburra. Julia, repeat after me. Kookaburra. Cook, like cook in the kitchen.
Yeah, kookaburra.
Kookaburra. Not Barra, not Burra. Kookaburra.
Kookaburra.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Probably didn't. Okay, enough of that. Last leg. Finally, we're 2 hours and 6 minutes into this show, so we're going to be a little shorter than the last couple of shows. The switch is on was how I teased this in the show notes at the top of the show. I didn't know this was going on. Maybe some of you who are into the foiling world more so than I, or we are here, but they gathered up a lot of the top female women sailors in Thailand, of all places, for an inaugural Fast Women's Switch, is the name of the class, training camp in Thailand, and they timed it to be after the Sail GP in Sydney, so that those who were there could go right up to Thailand and go to this camp, this first ever women's switch training camp, which took place at the Royal Varuna. We featured on this show before, attracting some of the best sailors in the world, fresh from competing in the Australian Sail GP. The hugely, get this, talented group taking part were Denmark's three-time Olympic medalist Anna Marie Rindam, the USA's Paris 2024 Olympian and Women's America's Cup sailor Erika Reinecke, Switzerland's Tokyo 2020 and Paris 2024 Olympian Maud Jayet, Australia's 2016 29er Youth World Champion and 2017 Australian Sailor of the Year Tash Bryant, who was also part of the British Athena Women's America's Cup team, and finally Liv Mackay of the New Zealand Women's America's Cup team.
Wow.
They were all at this camp.
Wow.
Apparently on the nickel, on the dime, at the behest
A magenta?
not a magenta, of the manufacturer of this
Switch.
called Element 6, which is a Thai-based company. They have dealers around the world, but one hears this may be an Olympic class sooner than later. What saith the rest of you? Think about that while we watch this quick and cool video.
So we have been here for a week now in Royal Varuna Yacht Club in Thailand, and it's been absolutely amazing sailing the Switch.
It's a really good boat, and I think, you know, we've all been like up and down and have better conditions and better strengths, better weaknesses, but we've been able to sail nearly every day.
Did some nice lineups with the girls and got ripping. Me and Liv had a bit of a battle, but a little bit of like a place switch, you know.
Like, I knew the Laser Girls, Erica and Anne-Marie, not so much Tash and Liv, so it was actually really nice to get to spend the week together. I feel like we made new friends.
It just motivates this class and other classes just to keep doing this because, getting the sport out there for women is, amazing. And I'm super grateful just to have this opportunity.
This class, it's actually pretty easy to sail the boat, and we're just learning so much, so I can't wait to see what's next in the future.
Yeah, I agree, Joe and Clark. Great video. There, we featured it before, as I mentioned. This is the Royal Varuna Yacht Club in Thailand, and a fantastic venue for this sort of thing, because this time of year, of course, it's warm year-round, but the next camp is scheduled for May at Garda, for those who have already purchased a Switch, and the seeds were sown for events in Denmark and Australia. So the company is really promoting this, this Element 6, which is headquartered in Thailand, and that's one of the reasons they ran it there, being so close to the Element 6 headquarters and en route for European-based GP sailors on their way back from Oz.
Aha.
So that's why they did it. I had no idea what was going on. I'm glad I just found the video. Nobody sent it to me. I just found it in my YouTube search this morning, Julia, as I do.
Lots of things.
Every morning before the show, I do a search in YouTube for sailing. I've subscribed to a bunch of channels, but I had no idea this was happening. It just happened across it.
Yeah. No, that's great.
That wraps this one up, except for the D Block Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Julia.
Yes.
Your favorite guy. And I have 3. They're all clean, you'll be pleased to know.
I am pleased to know.
Are you sure this is right, Mitchell? This is in your honor, Julia.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Erline, I guess that's her name, it says to rub his nose in it. How to train a German Shepherd. 9, bitte 9. Clean. Huh?
Yeah.
Greg sent that up from Australia, Greg Phillips. Thank you for that, sir. Now, Julia, this is also clean. This is the cleanest one Ryman has ever sent. And he said, if you did a caption contest, his caption would be, word got out that you and Julia are throwing a party at BSYC. It's a great picture.
It is a good picture.
And BSYC doesn't have a dock, but at least nothing quite like that. But, it's okay. Ted Ryman sent that in. And then finally, one to sum up our fabulous sport. There's no age limit to having fun sailing is the title of that slide that Ed Worley, bless his heart, sent in. Now, for extra credit, Julia, who is that in that Optimus
we
dinghy?
ought to know.
I think I know who it is. Just showing up. Hell of a day. We'll catch on all reruns. Fritz, we're missing you. Fritz down in Miami. We just featured your Bacardi Cup going on down there. Alistair Murray's got it. I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure, that's Paul Elfstrom, the late great Dane, in an Opti, who along with Ben Ainslie, arguably the 2 winningest Olympians in our beloved sport ever. Chris actually believes it is as well, Chris Fury, so I'm pretty sure that is who it is, Julia. And that great shot again by Edward, or sent in by Ed Worley. No, it's an Opti. I don't think it's a Sabot. Sabots have sideboards. That's got a daggerboard. And I can see the logo on the side. It's a winner Opti as well. I'm pretty sure J. Frederick Land. So, Julia, that gets us well and truly to the finish line. And as you like to say at this stage.
Yes, there's no excuse not to like, follow, and share. And especially share. Please.
Especially with a show that was this much fun.
Oh, yes.
And this informative.
It was.
Well, he's a commentator. I mean, he should know everything, and he does.
He does. He does.
And thank you to the Priceys and others who suggested we get him on, because Andrew, a.k.a. Dolly, Divola, I still want to know why. The Dolly are sheep's names in Australia. There must be something. There must be more to that.
Well, he got it really early on, though. He's still...
Well, nonetheless, nonetheless. And by the way, comments are welcome, even in replay, as we always tell you. Thanks to all of you who support us via Patreon. Become a patron, if you would, patreon.com, if you haven't already, /join/Sailing Illustrated. Thank you very much for your support. It keeps us on the air. I got another bill for another exorbitant streaming fee that they keep going up, Julia.
Uh-oh.
And it's not because of Trump's tariffs, I don't think, at least not yet. Who
We have
knows?
to get a streaming fee.
Yeah, we could start charging for the show, but then I think people would have a fit. Besides, we do it for the Fozy. Alistair Murray, thanks, Tom and Julia. Dolly was swell. Thank you, Joe Holtzman. Yes. Agree. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your support. Thank you to everybody who gave us images, videos, and audio for today's show, including the Royal Varuna Yacht Club, the Switch Class Middle Harbor Yacht Club, and many, many others. We shall look forward to seeing you this Friday, Julia. Yes. Have a great rest of your week, and we hope all the rest of you have a great rest of your week. And in the meantime, same channel on Friday. Go sailing. Sail fast, sail safe.
Have fun.
And have fun. Ciao for now.